Hey everyone, you know that feeling like when your knees they kind of creak like an old rocking chair?
Uh,
Or your back like protests with every bend?
Yeah, not the most fun part of, getting older, right?
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into a potential solution that's making waves in the natural health world. Icelandic Red Algae Calcium.
It's interesting, isn't it? More and more people are searching for plant-based ways to support their joints and bones as they age.
Exactly. And that's where this Icelandic Red Algae Calcium comes in. Now, full disclosure, our deep dive today is based on an article from topnaturalhealth.com, and they're currently running a promo code offer on this very supplement. So feel free to check it out if you're curious after our little exploration. But first, let's put on our critical thinking caps and see what this red algae stuff is all about, shall we? Always a good idea to approach these things with a healthy dose of curiosity.
Couldn't agree more. So the article kicks off by claiming Icelandic red algae calcium is superior to, like, the traditional calcium supplements many of us are used to. Apparently, it all comes down to better absorption. Have you heard this before?
It's definitely a buzzword in the supplement world these days. And that's where bioavailability comes in, which basically means how well your body can actually absorb and use a nutrient. Think of it this way. You could take a handful of supplements, but if your body can't absorb those nutrients, are they really doing you much good?
That's a great point. So what makes this Icelandic red algae calcium so special in the absorption department?
Well, according to the article, it's all about the source. This particular red algae thrives in the pristine waters around Iceland, and it naturally contains a highly absorbable form of calcium.
Okay, that makes sense. But before we go any further, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. What exactly ISU red algae? I'll be honest, the first thing that pops into my head is seaweed clinging to my sushi.
It's not too far off.
Hmm.
Red algae are a type of algae found in many aquatic environments, but this specific kind found in Iceland is prized for its nutrient content, particularly calcium.
So instead of getting our calcium from, like, big pharma, they're suggesting we get it from, well, Icelandic seaweed.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, but also a little skeptical. What's the evidence say about this whole natural is better argument?
That's a great question, and it's a bit more nuanced than simply saying natural always trumps synthetic. Our bodies did evolve eating plants, so it stands to reason we might absorb nutrients better from whole food sources. But when it comes to isolated nutrients like calcium, it gets a bit trickier.
How?
Well, the article makes a big deal about this Icelandic red algae calcium being plant-based, contrasting it with synthetic calcium, often derived from rocks. While that's true, it doesn't automatically make the synthetic stuff inferior. Our bodies are incredibly adaptable and can extract nutrients from a surprising variety of sources.
So the source of the calcium is only part of the story. What else should we be considering here?
The form of calcium, how it's processed, and other factors all come into play, and that's where this article really grabs your attention. They claim this Icelandic red algae calcium utilizes something called liposomal encapsulation to maximize absorption.
Okay, now we're getting into the technical stuff. You know I love digging into the science, but for our listeners who aren't familiar with liposomes and such, can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. Imagine each tiny molecule of calcium encased in a protective bubble as it travels through your digestive system. These bubbles, called liposomes, are made of fats, and they act as a shield, preventing the calcium from being broken down before it reaches your bloodstream.
So it's like a special delivery system that ensures the calcium actually gets to where it's needed most. That's pretty neat.
That's the idea, at least according to the article. But whether this technology is truly a game changer, specifically for Icelandic red algae calcium, is something we'll need to look at more closely.
Right, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
We
We've got to
got
keep our skeptical hats on. So we've got this unique source of calcium, this fancy liposomal encapsulation. But the article doesn't stop there, does it? They go on to list a whole slew of potential benefits.
Oh, yes, they do. And they are big ones. Reduced joint pain, improved mobility, stronger bones. They even claim it works faster than other supplements on the market. It's enough to make you wonder why we're even bothering with anything else, right?
Exactly. But of course, we can't just take their word for it. We need to look at the evidence. And speaking of evidence, the article does mention a clinical study.
Yes, the Minnesota Applied Research Center study. This is where it gets really interesting, particularly if you're curious about how this supplement stacks up against other popular options.
A clinical study, you say? Okay, now you've got my attention. What did they find?
Well, this study compared Icelandic red algae calcium head-to-head with glucosamine, which you might recognize as a popular supplement for joint health.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen glucosamine at the drugstore. So how did the red algae stack up?
Well, according to the article, the results were pretty remarkable. Participants taking the red algae calcium reported significant reductions in pain and stiffness. And get this, they saw those improvements in just 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's really fast. If I'm struggling with like a flare-up, I want relief sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And that's precisely the kind of hook that can make a product enticing. But as always, it's important to dig a little deeper and consider the full picture.
Okay, so what's the catch? There's always a catch, right?
Well, not necessarily a catch, but there are always nuances when it comes to scientific studies. One thing to keep in mind is that this particular study was funded by Icelandic Algae Technologies.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that's the company behind that genuine purity brand mentioned in the article, right?
You got it. Now, that doesn't automatically invalidate the study's findings, but it's just something to be aware of.
So you're saying there could be a bit of bias at play, like maybe they designed the study in a way that would favor their product.
It's a possibility, even if unintentionally. It's like that saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What else should we consider when we're evaluating a study like this?
Well, sample size is always important. A small study might not accurately reflect what would happen in a larger, more diverse group of people.
So we want to see larger studies, more participants, ideally funded by, neutral parties.
Got it.
Anything else?
It's also worth noting that this study only lasted for 2 weeks. So while those initial results are promising, we don't know if those benefits would continue over a longer period.
That's a really good point. I tend to get excited about, the quick fixes, but long-term results. I mean, that's what I'm really after. So while this study is interesting, it sounds like we need more research to confirm whether Icelandic red algae calcium is truly as effective as the article claims.
Precisely. It's a piece of the puzzle, but we need more pieces to get the full picture.
All right, fair enough. So the study focused solely on the calcium aspect, but the article hypes up like all these other ingredients found in this red algae, right? They mentioned magnesium, vitamins D3 and K2, even something called citrus bioflavonoids. Are these just fancy-sounding extras, or do they actually contribute to joint health?
They're more than just fancy names. Each of these nutrients plays a supporting role in keeping your bones and joints healthy.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
We'll take magnesium, for example. It's crucial for bone formation. Think of it as the construction worker that helps incorporate calcium into your bones, making them strong and dense.
So it's like calcium's trusty sidekick. What about vitamin D3?
Vitamin D3 is like a key that unlocks the door for calcium absorption. It helps your body absorb calcium from your gut more efficiently.
Ah, so that's how we avoid that leaky bucket situation we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Then there's vitamin K2, which acts like a traffic director for calcium, ensuring it ends up in your bones and teeth where it's needed most and not building up in your arteries.
Fascinating. Okay, that covers 3 of the supporting cast. What about those mysterious citrus bioflavonoids? The name makes me think of something you'd find in a, high-end health food store.
You might be surprised to learn that they're actually abundant in everyday citrus fruits, like oranges and grapefruits.
Really? I had no idea. So how do they fit into the joint health equation?
Citrus bioflavonoids are powerful antioxidants. They help protect your cells from damage caused by harmful molecules called free radicals. This is important for joint health because inflammation, which plays a big role in joint pain, is often linked to this type of cellular damage.
So by fighting this cellular damage, citrus bioflavonoids could potentially help reduce inflammation and protect our joints. That makes a lot of sense.
That's the gist of it. They work behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly. It highlights the interconnected nature of nutrients and how they often work together synergistically.
It really makes you think twice about how you approach supplements, doesn't it? It's not just about popping a pill, but understanding how those ingredients interact with our bodies.
Absolutely. And it underscores the importance of a holistic approach to health, considering factors like diet, lifestyle, and overall well-being.
It really makes you think twice about how you approach supplements, doesn't it? It's not just about popping a pill, but understanding how those ingredients interact with our bodies.
Absolutely. And it really underscores the importance of a holistic approach to health, considering things like diet, lifestyle, and your overall well-being.
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Icelandic red algae calcium, what are the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
I think the biggest one is to always approach health claims with a critical eye. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, especially when something promises to alleviate those, like nagging aches and pains. But as we've seen today, it's crucial to look beyond the marketing, examine the evidence, what are the sources, what's the research saying, and are there any potential biases to be aware of?
You've given us a lot to think about. It's so easy to just click buy when you see a promising supplement online, but taking a step back and doing your homework is crucial. And I imagine it's also important to remember that everyone is different, right? What works wonders for one person might not have the same effect on another.
Exactly. Our bodies are so incredibly complex, and factors like genetics, lifestyle, diet, existing health conditions, even like the bacteria in our gut, can all influence how we respond to supplements.
That's a great reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to health. So while this Icelandic Red Algae Calcium shows some promise, especially with those intriguing initial study results, we need more research to fully understand its long-term effects and whether those benefits hold up over time.
Absolutely. And it's always wise to have a conversation with your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional before starting any new supplement regimen, especially if you have underlying health conditions or are taking other medications.
It's like you always say, knowledge is power. The more informed we are, the better choices we can make for our own health journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we've explored the science, examined the claims, and now it's up to our listeners to draw their own conclusions. What do you think about Icelandic Red Algae Calcium? Have you tried it yourself? We'd love to hear your thoughts, experiences, and any questions this deep dive might have sparked for you. And don't forget to check out topnaturalhealth.com for more information.
Yeah, they have a ton of great resources on there. And as we mentioned, they're currently running a special offer for our listeners. So be sure to check it out if you're interested in learning more.
Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.